Good morning, Bhante Aranavihari. Good morning, everybody. We welcome Bhante Aranavihari back to BCM after some time, after the lockdown. And if anyone who is new here, who doesn't know Bhante Aranavihari, he has been visiting BSV for quite some time now, and he has been stuck with the COVID for over 1 year at BCM, but he resides at Newbury Monastery. He's visiting today just to give the talk. And we thank him very much for taking the effort to come over. And Bhante will be giving the guided meditation tomorrow evening at 7:30. That's a broadcast from Newbury Monastery. Bhante, thank you. Over to you.
Okay, now.
Do I have to ask for the...
Yeah.
How do I start?
Oka sambandhe tisaranena saddin panchaseelan dhamman yaja tisaranena saha
Bhante Mayam Bhante Tisaranena Saha Panchasilani Yakam Dutiyampi Mayam Bhante Tisaranena Saha Panchasilani Yakam Tatiyampi Mayam Bhante Tisaranena Saha Panchasilani Yakam.
Say Namo Tassa 3 times. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tisarana gamaṇaṃ nittitaṃ. Pānāti pātā vēramaṇī sikkāpadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Adinna dāna vēramaṇī sikkāpadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Kāmesu miccācārā vēramaṇī sikkāpadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Musāvādā vēramaṇī sikkāpadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Surāmēraya majjapamādaṭṭhānā vēramaṇī sikkāpadaṃ samādhiyāmi. තිසරණේන සද්දින් පංචංග සමන්නාගත සීලං ධම්මං සාදුකං සුරක්කිතං කତ୍වා අප්පමාදේන සම්පාදේත. So now we are chanting recollection of Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijjacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati satta deva manussanang buddho bhagavati Swakato bhagavata dhammo sandittiko akaliko ehi passiko opanaiko paccattang veditabbo vinyuhiti supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Nyayapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Samicipatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Yadidang chattari purisa yugani Atta purisa puggala esa bhagavato savaka sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakkineyo anjali karaniyo anuttaram punyakketang lokassati. Now we are chanting Karaniya Metta Sutta. Karaniya Matta Kusalena Yantang Santang Padang Abhisamecha Sakko Ujucha Sujucha Suacho Chassa Mudu Anatimani Santussa Kocha Subharocha Kiccocha sallahuka buddhi santindriyocha nipakocha appagabbo kulesu ananugiddo nacha kuddang samacare kinciyena vinyu pare upavadeyung sukhino akemino hontu Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta Yeke cipana bhutatti tasava tavarava anavasesa Dighavāye mahantava majjimarasa khanukatula Ditthavāyeva additthaye ca dure vasanti avidure Bhutava sambhavesi va sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta Naparo parang nikubbeta nati manyeta katta cinang kinci Vyarosana patigha sanya nyanya manyasa dukkha miccaya Mata yataniyam puttang ayusa eka putta manurakke Evampi sabba bhutesu mana sambhavaye aparimanang Mettanca sabba lokasming mana sambhavaye aparimanang Uddang adocha tiriyanca asambadang averang asapattang Tittang charannisinno asayano ayavatasya vigata middo Etang sating aditteya brahma metang viharang idamahu. Dittincha anupagamma silava dassanena sampanno. Kamesu vinaya gedang nahi jatu gabba seyang punareti. So, all of you are welcome to the Sunday talk. So, if you have any questions, it is good to ask, so then I can speak Dhamma, which is much more related to your life, or to which it is much more relevant to understand Dhamma. So it is good to, if you have any questions, you can ask. So then I will answer those questions first. So if you have, no? Okay. So anyway, then I will start speaking Dhamma based on the sutta which I discussed early. So the last two factors of this Sabbasava Sutta. Yeah. So the early I talk about these early factors of the tends to be abundant by seeing, tends to be abundant by restraining, tends to be abundant by using, tends to be abundant by enduring, tends to be abundant by avoiding, and tends to be abundant by removing, and tends to be abundant by developing. Today I am talking about these last two. So I think it is beneficial for the people who are practicing meditation, and in the same time, any level of practitioner, the Buddhist practitioner, get a lot of help from these practices. If you understand, if you try to understand what Lord Buddha meant by this, giving these instructions, because all these Dhamma based on right view, if you, it is important to put an effort to understand what is right view and what is wrong view, how we understand it, and how we use it in our day-to-day life and practice it. Because when you are practicing the right view, then you come to the deeper understanding how to use it, what is the difference between right view and wrong view, or right view and our usual view, how we see things, this world, how we relate to this world based on our previous training or whatever thing we get from this society where you born and lived. Even though you are born in a Buddhist community, most of the time you don't get the right view. You get the wrong view as right view most of the time. We misunderstand right view as the wrong view as right view. So it is the nature how it happens. Because always this consciousness arises in this world. It arises based on delusion. It works based on delusion. It is a part of the system. It is not only for one single person. It is common for all consciousnesses arise in this world. Even the Arahant's consciousness arises based on delusion, but they know it arises based on delusion. That's why they have that ability to abandon it or use it according to the convention, or using the wholesome or skillful means, not to fall into the unskillful means. So they have that ability because they know what is the delusion and how to abandon the delusion, or they know how to extinguish all these consciousnesses. So they have no more delusion. So that's why they know how to deal with this consciousness. But all other living beings don't have that understanding. So therefore, they just caught up by their feelings, perceptions, and volitions. So they don't know, they don't understand. They are falling into delusion, and then they are naturally fall into greed and hatred, and face a lot of troubles. So that's why the understanding the right view is important. So I will read these passages which are explaining how to abandon the abandon by removing. These are the last two factors of Sabbasava Sutta. I talk about the other factors in last two talks. Tends to be abandoned by removing. And now I am reading. What tends bhikkhus should be abandoned by removing? Here, a bhikkhu, reflecting wisely, does not tolerate an arisen thought of sensual desire. He abandons it, removes it, does away with it, and annihilates it. He does not tolerate an arisen thought of ill will. He abandons it, removes it, does away with it, and annihilates it. He does not tolerate an arisen thought of cruelty. He abandons it, removes it, does away with it, and annihilates it. He does not tolerate arisen evil, unwholesome states. He abandons them, removes them, does away with them, and annihilates them. While taints, vexation, and fever might arise in one who does not remove these thoughts, there are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who removes them. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by removing. So this is the one way. If you are mindful that the thoughts, sensual desire arise within you, because if you are not mindful, sometimes you may not clearly understand these things. But a skillful practitioner, or the practitioner who practice sometime this right view and right intentions, actually they clearly understand when an unwholesome the mental states arise, or the sensual desire arise within them. So they can they have that ability. They develop the ability to think wisely, think appropriate to the present moment, and act. But when they are practicing meditation, they can quickly remove it. That means the abundance it, removes it, does away with it. These things actually really helpful when you are practicing meditation. Then you see any unwholesome thing arise, you just turn away your attention from that object, and you focus your attention to different object, which make your mind more skillful, or abandon this unskillful mental states, or sense desire, ill will, or cruelty arise in your mind. You know how to, that means you have that training to do it. But this practice is really important when you are practicing meditation. When you sit for meditation, anything comes, you should have that ability to just abandon it. But when you are living in your day-to-day life also, you have to practice these things as much as you can. When you remember these things, you have to just follow that way of practicing. Because sometimes you forget, and you fall into your past actions, past karma, past the training, and you react based on this kind of the sensual desire, the thought of ill will, thought of cruelty, this kind of thing just pop up in your mind and you start acting. But when you identify, I'm now falling to this kind of the unskillful mental state, I have to avoid these things. I should abandon these things. Because if you if you give them a chance, if you tolerate this kind of the unskillful thoughts, it start growing within yourself, because you are allowing to grow these things within your the mind. So that become the karma. If you practice just cut off and abandon these things, that skillful means growing within yourself. It become more powerful. So that's why it is important to practice this abandon by removing, even in your day-to-day life, as much as you can. So it is helpful when you sit for meditation. So you can quickly abandon the unwholesome mental states. So you can bring your mind to peace, calm, peaceful mental states. So that's why Lord Buddha say, so this tends to be abandoned by removing, you have to practice. These are come as the sixth factor of this Sabbasava Sutta, the abandoning taints. So this is the sixth factor. So this one is closely helpful to developing your mind to the higher mental states. So if you analyze the parts of this removing, that means the does not tolerate an arising thought of sensual desire, does not tolerate an arising thought of ill will, does not tolerate arising thought of cruelty, and does not tolerate arising evil, unwholesome states. So if you read the second factor of Noble Eightfold Path, that is also something directly related to this one, because we talk about when a person practices a right view, the first factor. The second factor, right intentions, means the thoughts of non-cruelty, thoughts of non-ill will, and thoughts of non-sensual desire. So this opposite of this one. Actually, when you are practicing the right view, you are naturally start practicing the thoughts of the non-sensuality, non-ill will, non-cruelty. Because you relate to the world in a different way. So you see the world in a different way. World means your internal world, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, and all external, the bodies and minds also, you see in the same way. Because all these are natural phenomena. These things rise and pass away based on causes and conditions. These are all uncertain things. So therefore, you kind to yourself, and in the same time, you are kind to all other living beings. And whatever thing they have done, you can tolerate. You can let go. Yeah, you can maintain your kindness, softness, gentleness in your mind. In other words, non-ill will thoughts, non-sensual thoughts, and the non-cruelty, you can maintain within yourself if you are practicing the right view. So it is important to keep in mind the practicing right view is the base. So it is come at the beginning of this set of abandoning. So that means the all taints, the taints to be abandoned by seeing. So that is the first thing Lord Buddha introduced us. So we have to learn it first. Then it is easy to understand all others and practice easily all other abandonings. Okay, now I will go to the next. So if you have any questions regarding these things, you can ask at any time. Taints to be abandoned by developing. What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by developing? Here, a bhikkhu, reflecting wisely, develops the mindfulness enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. He develops the investigation of states enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. The energy enlightenment factor, which is supported by, he develops the energy enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. He develops the rupture enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. He develops the tranquility enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. He develops the concentration enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. He develops the equanimity enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. While taints, vexation, and fever might arise in one who does not develop these enlightenment factors, there are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who develops them. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by developing. So there is one important thing you have to understand. This mindfulness enlightenment factor, actually, it is not just the bare mindfulness. It is the mindfulness based on right view. So that is the most important part. It is, otherwise it may not become the right mindfulness. So right mindfulness actually based on right view. So you are mindful what you are experiencing now based on right understanding, based on right view. So therefore you relate to your experiences in such a way that you have the ability to just abandon it, just let go it, and leads it to the dispassion, cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. So this is the important part to understand. Here, Bhikkhu, reflecting wisely, develops the mindfulness enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. So we are not going behind the wisdom, but we are successful in seclusion, dispassion, and cessation. So this is the important part. Once you successfully come to the cessation, and if you are able to develop the seclusion and dispassion, that means you have the wisdom. You develop the wisdom. So the important part is the result. So whether you are achieving these things supported by that means the mindfulness enlightenment factor is based on the seclusion, dispassion, and cessation. So without having the seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, your mindfulness enlightenment factor is not developed up to the proper level. So it is not leads to deeper understanding or the wisdom. So therefore, we have to always understand this developing dispassion, cessation, and ripens in the relinquishment is the important part. So this thing you can do, or you get the right effort to do it, if you have the right view, if you practice the right view. First you must try to understand right view, and then you must try to use it within yourself. If you have any problems, you have to go and ask from the people who are practicing the path. Then you can solve all these problems and you can develop through the path. Lord Buddha said this path is fully dependent on the Kalyana Mitta, the people who are practicing the path. So therefore, these are the important things. So all these enlightenment factors are always associated with or supported by the seclusion, dispassion, cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. So that is one of the most important parts to understand. Otherwise, those are not enlightenment factors. So then I will read the next part, conclusion. Bhikkhus, when for a bhikkhu, the taints that should be abandoned by seeing have been abandoned by seeing. When the taints that should be abandoned by restraining have been abandoned by restraining. When the taints that should be abandoned by using have been abandoned by using. When the taints that should be abandoned by enduring have been abandoned by enduring. When the taints that should be abandoned by avoiding have been abandoned by avoiding. When the taints that should be abandoned by removing have been abandoned by removing. When the taints that should be abandoned by developing have been abandoned by developing. Then he is called a bhikkhu who dwells restrained with the restraints of all taints. He has severed craving, flung off the fetters, and with the complete penetration of conceit, he has made an end of suffering. That is what the Blessed One said. The bhikkhus were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So you have to abandon the fetters or these asavas, these taints, by developing your mind to all these states. That means, first thing is the abandon by seeing. So without developing that one, the others are not easy, because there is a root cause of developing. So that's why when for a bhikkhu, the taints that should be abandoned by seeing have been abandoned by seeing. When the taints that should be abandoned by restraining have been abandoned by restraining. So these steps you have to go one by one. And then ultimately you come to the enlightenment factors, which leads to the jhana levels. That means the stillness of the mind or the immersion you develop to such a deep level, then you directly experience the total cessation of five senses. So it gives, once you come back to the mindfulness enlightenment factor, you clearly understand how things arise and pass away, how senses arise and pass away, how those senses works. So you get the direct understanding, how suffering arises through senses and how the cessation happens. So then you have no doubt anymore regarding how suffering arises through senses. So then you get the courage to abandon your mind sense also. So then you go to the total cessation. So that's why the Lord Buddha say you have to practice the seven enlightenment factors again and again to understand the science of this body and mind and how to achieve the total cessation. So if you have any questions, you can ask. So it is good to then speak. That is the end of the sutta. So I spoke about this, all this, the ways how to abandon. So important thing is the right view, the seeing, abandon by seeing. It is the practicing right view. So it is the entrance point. So if you have any questions, it is good to ask. No questions. Okay, I have a question. There's a question. Yeah, here.
Good morning, Bhante. I just want to check with the right view you mentioned. How am I going to share the right view with someone, especially not the same religion, who doesn't believe in what you said, and then have to test the bitter pill? Thank you. Sadhu.
It is a good question. Sometimes when you are living in this world, sometimes you want to share with what you understand with other people. So sometimes people have strong beliefs. Even the Lord Buddha's time, the Lord Buddha couldn't teach some people because they have strong views, or these are embedded in their thinking system. So they just believe what they already believe. So very difficult to change. But anyway, you can introduce them to investigate and see how things are happening within yourself. So whether these things come from outside or inside, how it happens, how you take things. So it is easy to introduce a person to this uncertainty of this world. It is not very difficult to show to other people this uncertainty, because we try to make things certain, but it is impossible. These are impermanent. Impermanence is a part of uncertainty. So if we understand what is anicca is, so it is a truth of this world. It is a part of this world. You can't separate from this world. World means your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and all external phenomena, external objects in this world, subject to this reality. It is a part of this reality. So uncertainty is always there. So if a person who study the deep science, that means quantum physics or something, they clearly know what is uncertainty is. You can't avoid uncertainty. Uncertainty is always there. So that's why the people normally in the common worldling don't understand these deep truths associated with our life. So uncertainty is a part of the life. So if you investigate what you have experienced and how your thoughts, how your expectations change time to time, you see the uncertainty within yourself. And if you investigate about your experiences, how things come through your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and how your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body work with these things or take in these things, you see the uncertainty within these things. So it is not a very complicated thing. You have simply investigate how things are changing. So the way of seeing things is important. So when you are keeping in mind this uncertainty is the reality, it is always with us, then you start washing the uncertainty. Then you start identifying the uncertainty within our body and mind or external world. So you see this world, how this world is going on. So how things are happening in this world. COVID is a good example to see the uncertainty. Before COVID, people thought any disease can control by the science. And we can stop and avoid all these the bad reactions come from these the pandemics. But when the COVID come and spread everywhere, most richest countries, most powerful countries face a lot of problems, and they are facing the biggest disaster you can see in this world. How many people died? Now they say in America, died the people more than the Second World War. Such a large number of people died in America. So they are the people who have the lot of facilities and everything. And they are the richest countries. So what they can do? So this is this uncertainty. People go and settle down in those countries because they think those countries are safe. But when the circumstances are changed to different setup, so that safety disappear. So they are become unsafe. And their thoughts, their way of connecting to the world is also changed. That conditioning comes from the society. So that's why they are not afraid to this pandemic, and they think, we are powerful enough to fight with this pandemic. But what happened? Their percentage of deaths are high. not very low. So these things we have to understand. That is how we relate to this. How we relate to this world is uncertain. That depends on the causes and conditions, where you live, how you think about this world, how you take in things. So these are always change based on causes and conditions. How you were conditioned, your mind, how you take in things, how you understand things. This understanding, always based on causes and conditions, ripens at that moment. So how you take this? Even the people who know science, they know the danger of these pandemics and how fast these things spread. But once they believe, oh, these things are magical, these things come and go, that kind of thoughts also they allow to grow in their minds. And they believe those thoughts. And they just subside the scientific understanding, and they follow that. Okay, these things, this is some miraculous things. So these things will disappear one day, within seconds. Some people fall into that level, and they sometimes make decisions to the whole country, and do all foolish things. So they don't follow the what they have experienced before, and what is the real facts, and what are the thoughts, wishful thinking. They don't understand the difference between this wishful thinking and the real facts. So this is how this conditioning. This conditioning is not only belongs to one or two people. Sometimes the majority support to that understanding or that thought. That's why the uncertainty is such a level you can understand. So you can tell other people how change these thinking patterns of people. And now, about 50, 60 years ago, people value this democracy. Now people start devaluing the democracy, and they value the more authoritative power. So these things are natural, because when they are experiencing one state, they are fed up with those states, and they want to go to a different state. So that is the way how this mind works. So when you have the democracy too long time, you don't value the democracy. Then you want the more dictative power to control all people and make things better. But once they come to power, they start doing all foolish things. Then you don't want to leave them. Then you want to throw away those people and go back to democracy. It is the natural way of happening things. Who can stop these things? You can see in Germany, it is a nice example, in the 1940s. So same thing happened. So these are the cycles. Your mind also the same way work. Our minds also work in the same way. So when you are experiencing some comfortable life, you are not satisfied with it. You want something different. You try to find out something. The mind is always work like that. That is the part of delusion. That's why if you understand this impermanent nature, the uncertainty of mind, you just abandon it, because you know it leads to suffering all the time. It leads to more doing, endless doing. It is a part of delusion. So and the next important thing is, you should understand your mind is not under your control. It is not worthy to say it is yours. It always run by causes and conditions. So the external inputs, whatever thing, when you listen to the QAnon theory, you believe it. Whether it is true or false, you just think, oh, maybe this one is true. Oh, this is very dangerous. So then you start acting on these things. You start thinking, and you get sick. Your mind gets sick. The anger, hatred, sometimes the depression and anxiety arise in your mind. Can't stop. Because these beliefs come from, because it is related to your past karma. Sometimes you have experienced that kind of situations in your country, or where you are living, among your friends. you have seen that kind of situation, then the conspiracy theories and the people, they have this kind of plots and they do some bad things. If you have some little bit experience, you just believe these things, and your mind go to the depressed mental states. So there's little control. But if you understand this uncertainty and impermanent nature, you just let go. Because you know, one day you die. So this body is not a permanent thing. The mind is also, sometimes we suspect people, but later we understand, no, he is a good guy, he's not a bad guy. So these perceptions are not fixed, not permanent. These things arise based on causes and conditions. When the causes and conditions change, these perceptions and feelings change. So if we understand, if you are aware of that reality, so you whatever thing arise in your mind, you can abandon. You can just let go and free your mind and make your mind still and healthy. So not falling into the unwholesome or unskillful mental state. You can avoid unskillful mental states. So you can protect the health of your mind. Keep your mind in the skillful mental states. So it is good to understand this non-self nature and the uncertainty of this world. And therefore, the suffering is always associated with this consciousness. Because whatever thing you are enjoying, that is a simple example is, when you are enjoying the democracy, after some time you are no more enjoying it. You want something more. So then you are going, so this kind of things, even all aspects in your life is same. It is a part of the consciousness. That's why you should understand that suffering is always associated with this consciousness. Because you are not aware of this the uncertainty and non-self nature of this body and mind. If you have that understanding, or if you develop that understanding, you just develop abandoning all these the desires and the ill will, all these things, and try to make your mind still, calm and quiet, and enjoy the quietness and the release your mind from this five sense world. Then you see the happiness and non-suffering states of mind. So these are the important experiences. That's why Lord Buddha showed us a path to experience these things, and then understand how things arise and pass away. So how to abandon things, how to value things, and how to cut off the value thing and let go things. So this kind of thing you can tell to your friends. So sometimes they might understand. Some people don't want to believe all these things. But if a person investigates within themselves, they can see these things within themselves. It is not difficult. So is there?
Thank you, Bhante. There is an online question. I have been studying for 6 years. I have found some peace through studying the Dhamma and practicing meditation. I'm comfortable living in seclusion. I have dispassion, but I don't know how to be happy. I still have a desire to not exist. What should I do?
I have the desire
to not exist.
Yeah. Yeah, the important thing to understand is this desire is the one who creates the suffering, because the desire actually comes from the wrong understanding about your body and mind. Because you think you have the control on this body and mind. Therefore, you think desire is the most important thing, or you take in that way, or the desire arises. So if you see the desire is the proximate cause of suffering, so you just abandon the desire. Because desire, if you want to have a peaceful time, if someone else come and make you they start speaking and doing things, it creates that means the ill will or unhappiness in your mind, because you want to avoid all these things, and all desires create suffering. If you understand that, that is helpful to abandon the desire, because desire arises because you crave to the opposite thing. So the craving is that means the desire to not to have something means desire to have something else. So it is the both sides of a same piece of thing. So it is good to understand. It leads to suffering. So just abandon it. And how to abandon it means take this body and mind as not yours. It is a part of this world. So only thing, you have to develop the skillful means. That means in non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. Non-delusion means this body and mind is not I, me, myself. It is a part of this world. When you understand how it works, that is the main purpose of mindfulness. When you watch how things arise and pass away in your mind, then you see the causes and conditions. And how when you associate with those causes and conditions, those mental states and bodily states arise. When you are not associating with those mental states, or the inputs come from through your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, you can avoid those states. So that knowledge should gather through mindfulness. So then you are become skillful and knowledgeable person. So you know how to deal with things and how to avoid things and how to let go things. So practicing Dhamma, not only reading, but you have to discuss with people who are practicing Dhamma to deeper levels. Then they can give you the good instructions, how to deal with things. And then you understand why Lord Buddha teach in this way and that way. So some teachings, sometimes if people who don't have that deep understanding about the deep practical understanding about Buddhism, they interpret Buddhism in a totally wrong way, sometimes based on the personality view. So those things mislead. If you read Buddha's teachings, if you haven't developed the right view, sometimes you misunderstand a lot of Buddhism. Because you see things through the personality view. So then you interpret Buddhism based on personality view. So then you don't actually get the essence of Buddhism correctly. So that's why it is important to associate with people who are practicing this path to deeper levels. So that's what I can tell you. Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, ask.
Thanks for the talk, Bhante. From memory, appreciating your parents is part of right view. From memory, appreciating your parents, does that form part of right view?
Yeah, actually, it is a good thing, because appreciating your parents means then you develop the kindness, softness, gentleness towards them. That means a wholesome mentality you develop, because they have done something to you, no? So you can develop the gratitude and avoid all the unwholesome mental states. Sometimes people have a lot of grudges with their parents and problems. So you have to, leads to unwholesome mentality. Because if you see how people's minds arise, how their actions, bodily actions, verbal actions, their thinking, way of thinking arise based on where they born, where they live, how they lived, and what they learn from this world. So these things are all natural phenomena. You know, if you see this world in that right way, so then then you are kind to them because they are helpless. Where they born, how they lived, what they learned from this world. So who are their teachers, who are their parents, who are their friends. So all these things are supported causes and conditions which build up their thinking pattern or relate to the world.
Yeah.
So it is a natural phenomena. It is a natural way of happening things. So therefore, you have to develop the gratitude because you directly know how they supported you when you were a small child. So how they were kind to you, soft and gentle. So these things you can recollect. And then it generates the wholesome mental states in your mind. It is helpful for your practice.
But am I right in thinking that it sort of officially forms part of right view?
Ask me again.
Am I correct in remembering that right view to some extent incorporates an appreciation for your parents? Is it in one of the suttas or is it somewhere? Or is it just,
No,
just another part of the Dhamma somewhere else? I'm just thinking back to.
No, actually, it is not a part of right view, but it is a good practice.
Yeah.
Even a person who don't have right view, if they practice in this way, they develop the gratitude towards their parents.
Yeah.
It is helpful for the well-being of both sides.
Yeah.
Because it leads to more skillful mental states, skillful verbal actions, bodily actions, and build up harmony and happiness. So these things actually interrelated. So even though the people don't have right view, if they practice these skillful mental states based on whatever view, it is helpful. It is good. Yes. Even the people who believe other religions, they also have all these the good practices. When they develop these practices, actually they enjoy the benefits of those practices. It is universal.
Yeah.
So that's why Lord Buddha say, it is always related to your day-to-day life. When you have this body and mind, you have to develop the skillful actions, verbal actions and bodily actions, based on whatever view. It is helpful to maintain your happiness. But it never leads to the deeper the reality, the deeper understanding of the reality and total cessation of all suffering. It never leads. But if you have the right view, it leads to the total cessation of all suffering.
That's good. Answer my question. So what I understand is right view doesn't specifically talk about an appreciation of parents, but that type of practice.
It is a part of the
mind states.
Yeah. It is actually come based on any view, but it is also come under the right view.
Yeah.
But it can come under other views also.
Yeah.
But these are the practices, the day-to-day practices. When you are having the body and mind, when you are maintaining your body and mind in this world, you have to relate to this world in the skillful way. If you are practicing the unskillful way of relating to this world, it leads to suffering to both sides. So that's why even without having the right view, if you are practicing these things, it gives you the happiness.
Thanks.
There's also right effort.
Huh?
Right effort.
Yeah. It is come under right effort, but it is not. It is also good effort.
Yeah.
The right effort come based on right view. Okay, ask.
So to continue on the understanding of the difference between appreciating your parents,
Yeah.
because we're here because our parents made us, but it's also important not to think that means that all the bad things that can happen, because not all parents are kind, loving and caring.
Yes.
And I think so many times that teaching is taken as you must appreciate, so everything they did is good.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you have to forget all the... That's why I told the different people have different the backgrounds, how they brought up and how they think, how they relate to the world, even how they relate to their children. So how they deal with their children, how to work with their children. So these things actually have very complicated. That's why you have to develop metta. That is mean the loving kindness towards all living beings. So it is important. If you can maintain the kindness, softness, gentleness towards all living beings, including your parents. Parents is important because they have done something good to you. You can remind these things, how they love you, how they treat you well, how they fed you. All these things, actually, they gave the supporting hand up to bringing up you. So these things you can, because you have something good, you can remember. But you may have something bad also to remember. So you should avoid, because remembering bad things create more unhappiness, create more anger, hatred, unskillful mental states. If you know, when we are remembering these things, it creates more unskillful mental state. You should avoid these things because it is not good for the well-being of your mentality, mind, or your body and mind's health. So that's why you have to abandon these things. If you go to the deep roots, the impermanent nature, non-self nature, and suffering nature, you see, even though your parents are they're helpless, their bodily actions, verbal actions arise based on how they were trained, how they understood this world. It is a natural flow of happening things. That is not a personal problem with them. It is where they born, where they lived, how they value things, how this conditioning came to them. So if you understand this big picture, you kind to yourself and all other living beings. No control on these things. It is a natural flow of happening things. So then you relate to your body and mind in right way, and you develop the ability to abandon unwholesome stuff and develop your mind to total cessation. The cessation first, this five sense world, and then to the all experiences, you can come to the cessation. Because always this kind of sufferings, different kind of experiences always associate with the consciousness. If you have the consciousness, you experience these things at whatever level in your life. Sometimes your parents and the family members are very nice. Once you go to the job, you see someone is really bad. So, or when you go to the school, sometimes you experience bad things. So how can we control these things? This is the world. Or sometimes some governments, some rulers come and create more suffering. So who knows? So this is how the world works.
I try to describe a scenario. Say, if you witness a person abusing another person, you have some sort of reaction. But if you see some madman just abusing, not a person, just abusing, using abusive words, you have a different type of reaction. Because in the first scenario, you have two personalities you identify. In the second scenario, only one personality, only the person who is talking. This shows that when you identify your personality, your reaction is different. So similarly, if you don't identify any personalities by seeing, when you say seeing, abandoning by seeing, anicca, dukkha, anatma, your reaction is entirely different. That's what I'm trying to say. It is you react because you recognize the personality. But when you say seeing, you see anicca, dukkha, anatma.
Yeah.
So the response is very different. So let go.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to react. If you have the opportunity to help other person, you can have the different kind of reaction to help the person. Yeah, mental reaction. Yeah, mental reaction is they develop to a different level when you are practicing the right view. Yes. Anicca dukkha anatta. Then you are internally calm. But you can talk to other people. You can teach other people, or you can inspire other people to behave correctly by talking to them or doing something else. So many different things. That depends on your ability or your training. But how you relate to your experience is totally different when you develop the right view. So then you are kind, soft and gentle to whatever thing you are experiencing. You just, even it gives you a pain in your heart, you just let the things be and let the things disappear. You don't worry. You are not try to fight or try to do anything more. Just let the things arise and pass away. Yes, if you have any more questions. Okay, ask.
Thank you, Bhante. Sometimes, well, often enough, I guess, we have a sense in this life that there's somebody there who wants help for various reasons. Probably they're anxious, depressed, have lots of problems. And you have a sense that you don't have the skills to help that person. And I'm just wondering what you think of that. I would tend to step back if I felt I didn't have the skills to help that person. What are your thoughts on that, Bhante?
Yeah, in some situations we don't have skills to help. Even the Buddha did not have skills to help some people. So, yeah, that depends on different people. Yeah, sure. So you have to be kind. So you have to calm down your mind, because sometimes you can inspire another person who they believe or they have the skills to talk to that person or help to that person. So you can inspire another skillful person who understands that situation. That's like we are taking a sick person to a doctor, because we don't have that skill. We are not doctors, so we bring the person to a doctor. So that kind of thing you can do. But sometimes we don't find out a proper person to do it. So then we can try, but maybe it is not successful. What to do? So most of the time it is common in our lives, Yeah. Very difficult to tell some people, so to convince. That's why a lot of people say that if people have that past, the karma, that means the previous experiences which are supportive to what you are saying, so then they quickly grasp what you are telling. Otherwise, they have no means to understand what you are telling them. So that's why they don't believe, they don't accept what you are telling. So that is how this world works. Even the Buddha's time, many people didn't understand what Lord Buddha is telling to people. They believed, actually majority believe some other religions. Only few believe the Buddha's teachings. Only the wise people who can investigate and see, oh, this is true, this is correct. Then once they are investigating, they can clearly understand. Otherwise, they don't understand. It is not the faith towards Buddha is not spontaneous. Most of the nowadays, because these religions exist for thousands of years, that's why we have that faith from the birth. So we or after investigating these things, because the widespread beliefs. But in Buddha's time, only few people believe Buddha. So majority believe other religions who exist for hundreds of years. even the Nigantanathaputta's religion, this Jainism, it lasts about 300-400 years there before Buddha. So most people believe that religion, and some other people believe other religions also. So that's why that depends on people. So what are the causes and conditions they have to understand what you are telling? That is the way how it works. Okay, ask.
Good morning, Bhante. The question which I have is, even though that I think that I may die, but this thinking doesn't sink inside much. Basically, most of the time I don't think that I'm going to die. So how can we how can we deepen our understanding of death and impermanence within ourselves? We know that we are going to die, theoretically,
Yes.
but practically the way I live, it doesn't seem like I know that I am going to die. So how can I heard a lot of Dhamma talks, read a lot of stuff. So basically, theoretically, it seems logical that I will die, but still there is something inside which doesn't know that I'm going to die.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah.
So how to basically, maybe it's a silly question which I'm asking, but still I want to know how can I intensify the thinking, basically how can I make apart from the brain, if there is something inside me which is there, which knows the things, basically, heart, mind, whatever we can say, that other stuff, or even the brain itself, but somehow the brain even also contradicts itself most of the times, because, if I have a mobile and if my mobile got stolen, I will be very much worried about my mobile got stolen rather than be worried that I will be dying within the next 5 minutes. So how can this thinking of death and impermanence really sink inside ourselves that it really helps us? Because theoretical understanding is good, we understand the things, but I can say for myself, I understand theoretically that I may die, but that thing that I'm really going to die, that this thing is not inside me, I guess. Because if it was, then I would have not been attached to my mobile. Because if somebody takes this mobile right now from me, I think I will be very much thinking about, how will I navigate to my house? Because I don't know the direction and some things. I have to use the maps, something. So,
Yeah.
So
it is pretty clear. Because, you are young. You are not close to...
I look young, but I'm not young that much.
Yeah, maybe. You are not reached to the old age, because you are not feeling the weakness of your body. I don't know. So one of the most important thing is what you are doing now. What is your job? Because people are always engaged with their work, day-to-day work. So they are living with this world, the living world, not with the death. Can you understand? Mm-hmm. So if you start practicing meditation, if you ordain as a monk and practice meditation, you quickly understand, because you always watch the death. So you watch the corpse and all these things. If you are working in a hospital, you see how many people are dying daily. So then you get a different understanding. Once you are living in the other world, that means you are doing a job in an office and all the people are coming and going, working. All the time you are engaged in the today work. What you have to do. So you are living. So phone, you can't let go of the phone, because phone is one of the important parts. So once it loses, you just want to get the next phone and do it. This is called bhava. You hold on to the bhava, the existence, present existence, what you are associated with. Even you met with an accident and your body become die or close to die, what happened? If you read the near-death experiences, you see what happened then. You just go to a different state of existence, and you try to start up your body and and go back to your work. Because you are already attached to these things. You have to look after your family. You have obligations. You have to do things. Because that is the way you attach to this world, how you associate with your experiences, how you live in this world.
So how can a family man basically walk the spiritual journey so that...
Yes, it is possible.
How?
You have to understand. That's why it is important to have the right view. And then you develop the right intentions. And then you develop the right verbal actions, bodily actions, and livelihood. It is a part of the system. Because when you are living in this world as a layman, so you have the family, you have obligations. You have to look after your children. If your children are young, then you have more responsibilities. So you have to keep the balance. If you can hand over them to someone else and go, it is a different scenario. But most of the time, you are bearing the responsibilities. So then, in that state, you have to keep the balance of practice. So that's why Lord Buddha say, you can practice the right view. In the same time, you can develop the skillful bodily actions and verbal actions to deal with this world skillfully and maintain those things. And when you have the free time, you can practice meditation and liberate your mind from five sense world. So that is how we have to practice Noble Eightfold Path in your lay life. So this is a step by step. You have to develop that path. The first part is the right view. How you understand this world, how you relate to this world. It takes time. Because why you became a layman and why you became a normal, it is what you practice in past. So you enjoy, you value that kind of life. That's why you came to that life. You chose that life. It is not spontaneously happen. It is how it happens based on causes and conditions. So that's why you have all these attachments, all the connections to the world. So you are always run based on those connections. So it is a part of the system. So when you're developing the right view, you are naturally cut the unnecessary part first. And the necessary part you keep, and you try to find out the opportunity to cut off and let go those parts also. Then gradually you liberate all the attachments and go to the total. These things cannot happen spontaneously. So it is a part you have to develop. Then you start reminding yourself this impermanent nature, non-self nature. Then you start seeing how many people are dying, how this death happens, what are the causes and conditions. Then you see the impermanent nature, this body, how. Then you see your parents, the grandparents, how they passed away, and how things happen in this world. And your friends' parents, your relatives, how the elderly people pass away. So then you see, I also should have faced this same problem. Then it comes to you. Like when you are driving your car, at the first time, you have no much experience. But after some time, you don't much think. You just drive. Because it is a part of your system. It is closely attached to your system. Automatically work. In the same way, when you practice this, the marana sanya, the perception of death, so you develop, okay, you always have that understanding. I will die one day. But now, in these present circumstances, you are not able to do it because you have obligations, you have attachments, you have the responsibilities. So that's why your mind is not tends to think like that way. It makes your mind contracted. It is a natural way of happening things.
Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you for it.
Bhante, can I give a scientific
Okay.
explanation for that? I mean, all biological units are born with can you hear me?
Yeah.
Biological units, the DNA, it's in the DNA for survival of the unit and the species.
Yeah.
So that is built into the system.
Yeah.
That's how we all survive. So I think everybody thinks like, what is this?
Yeah.
So we think the practice is all just the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I mean, dependent origination says that this is how it goes.
Yeah.
The self, and that's natural. That's in the DNA.
Yeah.
So you don't think of death. You think of living,
Yeah.
surviving.
Yeah.
That's why you forget that you're going to die.
Mm.
But the Buddha said, practice the impermanence.
Yes. Yeah. These things actually, the path you have to cultivate. You have to practice. You have to use the right view in your day-to-day life. Then gradually start growing this knowledge. That knowledge helps you to see the world in a different way. So the practice the right view gives you the right knowledge. Samma Ditti gives the Samma Jnana. The Jnana is the knowledge. Yeah, it is a good question actually. Most people have this kind of, because they try to find out things within us, within their bodies and minds. These bodies and minds always arise based on causes and conditions have now. You can develop the wholesome things when you come to contact and when you review on these things and try to practice these things, then gradually develop these things. First, when you sit on the seat of the driving seat on a car, you don't know how to drive exactly. So you learn step by step, and then you get the skill, and then you get the proper understanding about how to drive the car. So in this same way, the practices also come to you in that way. You just develop slowly, step by step. So, is there any more questions? Is it okay to stop or continue? Okay. Then we may pay respect to Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha and finish today's program. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivadi Swakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namassam Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namah